I appreciate the members of the media that are here today. I scheduled this briefing to provide an update on the investigation that has been in the hearts and minds of the people of Chaffee County since Mother's Day of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on Mother's Day 5 years ago.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about Suzanne Morphew. I want to throw out a hypothetical, and then I want to offer some policy recommendations. This is the prosecutor, Ann E. Kelly. And then in her podium speech, she says that all these agencies need to speak with one voice, and it's hers. You got to speak with one voice, everybody, and it's through me. Okay, that's not possible, right? Everybody speaks with their own mouths, and it's also fascist totalitarian crap. Victory has a million fathers, but defeat is an orphan.
Law enforcement has never stopped working to obtain justice for this mother of two, this daughter, this sister, and this beloved member of the Chaffee County community. Through the tireless efforts of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, the Saguache County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I can announce today that the 12th Judicial District Grand Jury returned an indictment.
So, Ann E. Kelly should share the credit. I mean, all these other people are working on the damn case, right? She should share the credit. At least they're using a grand jury indictment now. That's that's progressive. And I want to mention something about Barry Morphew. Barry Morphew's second arrest, right? This is the second arrest.
The grand jury has indicted Barry Morphew on the single count of murder in the first degree.
Okay, so on Mother's Day, May 9th or 10th, 2020, Suzanne Morphew in Chaffee County, Colorado, goes missing. She goes missing. The last person who saw her, Barry Morphew, and he had said that Suzanne was planning on going on a solo bike ride. The Morphew daughters, they were returning from a church trip later on that day. So there's only one person that saw Suzanne Morphew before she goes missing.
Law enforcement, the Chaffee County community, and Colorado as a whole has never stopped fighting for justice for Suzanne. Cold case homicides are tremendously difficult. They're difficult for the families of the victims and the communities who wait patiently for answers.
So Barry Morphew, he's guilty as hell. Oh my God, Barry Morphew totally killed Suzanne Morphew. This is a slam dunk case. Presuming the bones that they found are Suzanne Morphew's, which it sounds like they are, they found only one kind of tranquilizer inside her system, something called BAM, B-A-M. So they find Suzanne Morphew's bones. They find that this BAM tranquilizer darts were inside of her system. What's peculiar about that, the reason why that's significant, is because Barry Morphew owns BAM tranquilizer darts. In fact, he's the only one that owns BAM tranquilizer darts in the entire state of Colorado. That's lightning in a bottle. That's a 1 in a million winning Powerball lottery ticket. That's the golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. So they got him. They got him. He's guilty. He's guilty. This is Ann Kelly's case to lose. There was some DNA that they found in the glove box that suggested other people had access to the glove box. For some reason, they found 3 matches. There's some DNA in the glove box, and there's 3 matches, and then that's like even some sort of serial killer So Barry Morphew and his defense, his lawyer, I'm sure they'll try to exploit that to the fullest. But this is Ann Kelly's case to lose. America rejected the female prosecutor from California. Instead, they picked a racist, fascist child abuser who doesn't give two shits about the Constitution. In the 12th Judicial District, a kid had shot a cop, injured her, and the kid got 40 years in prison. So if an injury gets a person 40 years in prison, then clearly Suzanne Morphew's death should easily get Barry Morphew life in prison, if not more.
While it may seem at times that the world forgets about these victims, I can assure you that my law enforcement partners and Colorado's law enforcement community do not forget. Every unsolved murder is a tragedy, and we must never give up on our efforts to find answers in these cases.
Okay, so that's some interesting grandstanding there. Share the credit. And Kelly, share the credit. Barry Morphew went to work. He went to a work trip in Broomfield. I thought he looked guilty from before, but then they had thrown the case out, and so now they're coming back to it. I still feel he's guilty, but there's an interesting difference. So she goes missing. He leaves the house at like 5:30 in the morning to go to Broomfield, right? This is like, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour away. So he's saying he's on a work trip. He's in, another place. How could I have done it? I was at the job site. I was up in Broomfield. I couldn't have done it. But the reason why that's an interesting difference, because Barry Morphew, when he was in Broomfield, he was driving all around the town, dropping trash into a bunch of different trash bins and dumpsters. And it's like, what the hell are you doing? Why is he throwing, if you have like a little bit of fast food trash, whatever, you just, you can put it in the gas station. But he went to 3, 4, 5 different locations, dropping trash off at 3, 4, 5 different locations. The reason why that's interesting, because I thought that was where he was like dropping off pieces of her body. And if he wasn't throwing away parts of her body, because they found almost a complete set of bones of Suzanne Morphew, then what was he throwing away? Maybe the bloody clothes? Maybe his bloody clothes, her bloody clothes? And her cause of death, that would be interesting too, because they didn't see like any trauma, like any blunt force trauma. So did he just shoot her up with a bunch of BAM tranquilizer? He's the only person in the state of Colorado that has BAM tranquilizer darts. You have to have a vet's license, a veterinary license, in order to get this BAM tranquilizer darts. And in the entire state of Colorado, he's the only one that's got them. So the almost complete set of bones was found in Saguache County, which is pronounced Saguache, like with a W, but it's spelled Saguache, Saguche. So that's interesting. That's for the media. Saguache is with a G. It looks like Saguache, but you got to say Saguache. So for anybody in the media following that case, that's where they found. That's significant because where do you try the case? The murder probably happened in Chaffee County, right? That's where he lived. That's where their house was. But then they found the bones in Saguache County. And Saguache County is pretty much rural. Very few people live in Saguache County. And then that's what puts it in Ann Kelly's district. Barry Morphew is currently in an Arizona jail.
My office will be prosecuting the indictment as Suzanne's remains were found in Saguache County, which is a county within my jurisdiction, the 12th Judicial District. I am extremely appreciative of Michael Doherty, who is the elected district attorney in Boulder County. He has consistently committed material resources to small rural DA's offices like mine to assist in the sometimes Herculean efforts to bring justice for victims in rural areas of our state.
Hercules. We're going to invoke the name of Hercules. Well, I believe in the Lord God. I don't believe in any of those old Greek or Roman gods. Now, I got a hypothetical for you, okay? You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. To see if something is right or wrong, all you have to do is reverse the roles. Just reverse the roles. So here's the hypothetical. So let's imagine Suzanne Morphew. Suzanne Morphew, they're at their house in Chaffee County. They're outside of their home. They're in their backyard, right? Suzanne and Barry Morphew are just in the backyard, and they're about, 600 feet away from each other. And Barry Morphew, he's going to act like he was just joking. He had the tranquilizer rifle in his hands, and then while Suzanne Morphew was 600 feet away, he had raised it up. He had pointed at her. He shouted he was going to shoot. He was going to tranquilize her if she didn't stop cheating on him. So that's the hypothetical. That's not an immediate threat of death. There was one lawyer that was like, oh, that wasn't immediate. Well, it's a tranquilizer dart, right? So she would be subdued. But that's not an immediate threat of death, like in an instant. So you technically couldn't consider that an attempted murder. But it's clearly a serious threat of bodily injury, which could easily end up in death. You have that menacing charge. Menacing says if you try to scare anybody with a gun, a knife, or a bludgeon. So a tranquilizer dart, that's a gun, but it's not a gun, right? I mean, if you just threaten somebody with like a water pistol, that's not. So Suzanne Morphew takes the threat serious. It was a serious threat. He's going to joke around and say, oh, I was just kidding. Oh, were you? You were just kidding? Because it seemed pretty fucking threatening to me. Right? Me being Suzanne Morphew. She takes the threat serious, and she has a gun, and she actually fires 3 warning shots straight up into the air. You're not going to shoot me with that damn tranquilizer dart. She shoots 3 warning shots straight up into the air. She was behind a shed, so there's no possibility of him saying that he was the one that was being threatened. She did it to ward off the threat because she had read the Heller decision, and she knows that she's got Second Amendment protections as well as Colorado's Article 2, Section 13 protections. I mean, Suzanne Morphew is allowed to carry and bear arms in defense of home, person, or property. So certainly if there's situations where lethal force is justified, then clearly there's circumstances where lesser force can be used as well.
If you think it might rain later, then all you need is this bearskin heavy storm rain jacket. That's because this is the only...
His commitment to rural Colorado with this, he's continued his commitment with this state, with this case. He's provided me with the assistance of a chief deputy in the Boulder County District Attorney's Office to assist me with the investigation and the prosecution. Colorado's community of prosecutors is committed to assisting wherever the need arises. In addition to Mr. Doherty's assistance, District Attorney John Walsh of the Denver District Attorney's Office has committed to providing me with appellate guidance during the case proceedings. So today I have with me Chaffee County Sheriff Andy Rorick. I stand united with Sheriff Rorick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker.
Stand united in what? What are you talking about? Now let's carry on with the hypothetical. Now let's say all this had happened in a criminal neighborhood, right? So not only did Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew have this weird thing where he pointed a tranquilizer dart at her and she fired some warning shots, right? And no injury happened. That settled the situation. He pointed the tranquilizer dart at her, the gun, and she fired a couple warning shots. The situation's over, right? No injuries had happened. He was either joking or not joking. She took it serious, said, don't you dare do that, communicated with him very clearly. If you try to shoot me with a tranquilizer dart, if you try to get into a truck, a big rig, a large industrial truck, and you want to try to run me over, if you want to jerk your steering wheel like you're going to try to run me over, Well, I just fired a couple warning shots to tell you to back up. Now, this all happened in a criminal neighborhood, okay? So not only did Suzanne Morphew have to go through that terrible, terrible ordeal, but it happened in a criminal neighborhood. Let me talk more about that here in a second.
I stand united in announcing this indictment. Through this process, I have seen firsthand how deeply Sheriff Warwick and Under Sheriff Alex Walker and the entire Sheriff's Department in Chaffee County cares about this case. I am proud and appreciative of our cross-jurisdictional partnership and their hard and excellent work. I also stand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has never wavered in its commitment to this investigation, providing essential intelligence and investigative resources and expertise through the years. I also recognize and appreciate our continued partnership with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has done incredible work, and their CBI agents and analysts have worked very, very hard to advance the goal of finding answers in this investigation.
Okay, so everybody's doing a great job. Now, Suzanne Morphew had this threat. He pointed the tranquilizer dart gun at her. She fires a couple warning shots. This is in a criminal neighborhood. And I'm not just talking about a little bit of a criminal neighborhood. My God, you got serial killers. There's arsonists. There's pedophiles, Nazis, thieves, stalking, felony stalking. She can't leave her damn house. There's drive-by shootings. She had 39 shots that had been fired at her. So Suzanne Morphew, she can hardly do anything with the felony stalking, the drive-by shootings, at least 7 drive-by shootings, 7 assassination attempts. There was somebody that killed her damn pet. There's racist terrorists. And she called 911. Suzanne called 911 whenever she witnessed a crime herself. If she was a police officer, she would have made an arrest or investigated. She's like, wow, if I was a cop, I would definitely, follow up on that. So she called 911 when she saw major crimes, but that only annoyed the courts and the prosecutors. The prosecutors were pissed off, and the clerks and the judges and the cops. They didn't know who Suzanne Morphew was, and they were just sick and tired of her calling 911. They would have to get into their cars. They would have to drive all the way out to her house to investigate the crimes. When they finally show up an hour later, they would look around and say, wait a second, I don't see any criminals around here. The courts, the prosecutors, clerks, judges, the cops, they signed up to be authorities for the perks. They didn't sign up to stop the crimes. And one of the criminals who had killed Suzanne Morphew's kitten, they put a noose around its neck, hung it up on her porch. Well, it turns out that Barry Morphew was buddy-buddy with those people. Okay? This is a similar situation that I've heard about, that this same prosecutor had ignored all of that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So not only did Suzanne Morphew have this terrible experience with this other fucking guy that threatened to tranquilize her, she fired a couple warning shots, because if the cops aren't going to do a damn thing about it, and the prosecutors and the courts and the judges aren't going to do a damn thing, well, she gets to defend herself, especially since that's the damn law. That's in not just American Constitution, that's Colorado Constitution. She's doing something that's constitutional 2 times over. And she's in a dangerous neighborhood. She's in a dangerous neighborhood. So Barry Morphew, even if we try to be as generous as possible, he's just being a hooligan. Okay, yeah, that's a joke in your mind. That's not a funny joke. Do you realize what neighborhood we live in? And then you're sitting there acting like you're going to shoot a tranquilizer dart at me? And at the very most, since he's buddies with the other criminals, well, shit, maybe he was a part of the damn harassment and the stalking and the drive-by shooting and the killing of her kitten. So he'll just say he was just joking, but he was actually best friends with Robert Pickerel, who had committed a bunch of crimes. Okay, so let's hear some more.
Here representing the CBI is Agent in Charge Chris Adams with CBI's Pueblo office. I also stand with Saguache County Sheriff Dan Warwick, who is here with me as well. He and his office immediately answered the call to action when Suzanne's remains were found in the county he represents. Sheriff Warwick and his deputies are an essential part of this team, responding to the recovery of Suzanne's remains with the highest level of dignity and professionalism.
My dad has been struggling for a really long time. Her dad.
Okay, so that's clearly unfair, right? Why would Suzanne Morphew have to go through all that shit? I think he's pointed a damn tranquilizer dart at me because he might fucking kill me. She had warned the authorities over and over again. She's been shot at. It's a dangerous neighborhood. Now she just had this terrible thing, but Annie Kelly doesn't give a shit about Suzanne Morphew. To hell with you, Suzanne. I don't care if you follow planning and zoning laws. I don't give a damn if you called 911. I don't care if you were moral as Jesus Christ. I don't give a damn. Suzanne Morphew got arrested because she fired those warning shots. Well, Annie Kelly is going to prosecute her to the fullest extent of the law because fuck you, Suzanne Morphew. So imagine this. After she went through all that shit in a dangerous neighborhood, Barry Morphew threatened her. She warded off the threat, but a cop arrested her because, well, Barry lied about it. And so all you have is Barry's lies, and then you have, well, Suzanne said, well, yeah, I fired a couple warning shots because he threatened me. Oh, you admitted to it, huh? So Suzanne Morphew gets arrested for upholding Article 2, Section 13 and the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. What a fucking nightmare. What a nightmare for Suzanne Morphew. Now she's going to have to fight these charges while still living in a dangerous neighborhood without police protection or court protection or prosecutors or the damn judges doing a damn thing. And then during the proceedings, oh my God, all the shit that they pulled. So Suzanne Morphew now has to go to court, a kangaroo court, where you have a tyrannical prosecutor and a corrupt judge pulling all the punches to make sure that the damn cop narrative fucking fits. A 3-day time limit is imposed. You can't do any depositions. You can't get any other witnesses to sign something so you can submit it to court. Whatever witnesses are going to show up are going to have to show up during those 3 days. The damn prosecutor is going to order a sequestration, so you got to go around. Suzanne Morphew now has to go around, subpoena a bunch of people that either A, don't like her, or B, was committing crimes against her. And then now the people that didn't like her has to sit outside the damn courtroom for 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 days.
I also want to continue to recognize what I have come to expect in my years as a prosecutor, and that is multi-jurisdictional and multi-state cooperation and partnership. I want to recognize the Arizona Department of Public Safety, who immediately responded to our team's request for assistance in locating and arresting Barry Morphew in the Phoenix area. Mr. Morphew will be held by Arizona authorities pending extradition proceedings in that state. And upon conclusion of those proceedings, Mr. Morphew will be transported to Alamosa County to stand trial on the indictment.
All right, let's carry on with the hypothetical. Because Suzanne Morphew would be alive today. If they would have believed Suzanne Morphew, then other criminals would have been arrested. Why wouldn't Suzanne Morphew be allowed to defend herself if Barry Morphew had threatened her with a tranquilizer dart? Was it imminent? Not imminent, not death, but definitely a serious threat. So now, part of our hypothetical, Suzanne Morphew is in court with a corrupt prosecutor, an overzealous cop, tyrannical prosecutor, and a corrupt judge. Now, while she's in court, they're not going to allow any expert testimony. No expert witnesses are allowed on the faultiness of eyewitness testimony. You're not allowed to read a book and have Missio Kaku. You can't submit one little copy of a Missio, one page of a Missio Kaku book. Not only that, they're going to allow perjury. They're going to allow Hunter and Hummel and Joe Canty. They're going to allow Barry Morphew to lie. They're going to allow them to go ahead and perjure themselves. That's a class 4 felony. That's punishable up to a maximum of 6 years of prison time if we're being fair. So not only did Suzanne Morphew live a nightmare where she's a prisoner in her own home, having people do drive-by shootings, kill her pets, stalking, spotlighting her late into the night. Now she has Barry Morphew, this goddamn asshole, threatening to shoot her with a tranquilizer dart. Now she has to do this fucking court shit. They're allowing perjury. They're not going to allow any expert testimony. There's a 3-day time limit imposed, a 20-minute time limit for the final closing speech. And then, oh my God, lo and behold, guess what? We actually had 4 eyewitnesses and 3 material witnesses to the damn thing we're talking about. So, I thought it was just Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew in the backyard, but it turns out there's 4 eyewitnesses. Because if you got 2 people and they're both saying the opposite thing, how can you determine who's telling the truth and who's not? Unless one person is just clearly lying and the other person is just clearly telling the truth, you can't tell. Logically, their words cancel each other out. Barry Morphew says nothing happened, she's crazy, she's making all this crap up. Suzanne Morphew says, no, he pointed a tranquilizer dart gun at me, I fired a couple warning shots. So who's telling the truth? You need evidence. You need a couple witnesses, and you're going to need some evidence if you want to discern the truth. And there happen to be 4 eyewitnesses. Oh, hallelujah! Oh, isn't that great? Now we can actually search for the truth. But the prosecutor doesn't give a damn about the truth. Neither does the judge. And the 4 eyewitnesses, the 3 material witnesses, they're going to be subpoenaed. And the police were paid to bring the witnesses in, but they refused to do so because they're trying to make their charge against Suzanne Morphew stick. They're trying to say that she was menacing him. One of the witnesses subpoenaed threatened to shoot Suzanne Morphew, so she's got to pass out these subpoenas by herself. And when she does, that same damn Phil Greeny who had committed crime after crime after crime against her, well, he threatens to shoot her. With the 4 eyewitnesses, there was one that was right in the middle of the whole damn thing. Pickerel was right there the whole time. Barry Morphew threatens her with a tranquilizer dart and then goes and delivers some roofing material to the next door neighbor, Robert Pickerel, which he could see everything pretty much on half the property. Another person was in a house nearby. Maybe they saw something, maybe they didn't see something. They heard something. They had to have heard something. But we see the truck that was there in the house. The person was inside the house. And if they happened to look outside their window, if they happened to go outside to their truck or come back or in, they may or may not have seen something. Could have got a deposition, but they're in Arizona. They're in Arizona. You can't get Adam Clayton in order to come in. One was also on a porch nearby. And then one was in the neighboring house who took a photograph. So if you have 4 eyewitnesses and one of them had taken a photograph for the truth, wouldn't everybody want these eyewitnesses to come in for the truth? Of course you would. If you care about the truth whatsoever, you can't get objective justice if you don't have objective truth. So that's great news for Suzanne Morphew's case, right? It's great news for the truth. Okay, the cops had made a mistake. They had arrested her, but we're going to have an actual fair trial, a full and fair hearing, a discussion about the witnesses and the evidence. We're going to get to the bottom of things. We're going to find out the truth. We're not just going to rubber stamp a cop's arrest because that doesn't tell the full story.
This indictment has been unsealed upon the arrest of Mr. Morphew. I asked for this briefing to provide you with an update and provide information to the community. Me and my team recognize the importance of being laser focused on the prosecution and to speak with one voice. And so for that reason, all of the agencies that have been involved in getting us to this place, as well as the prosecutors that have been willing to assist me in this investigation and prosecution, they have all been instructed to send any media requests to my office, and so that's what I'd ask of you. In an effort to be transparent, I'd like to thank the the Office of the Judicial District in this district for making the indictment immediately available, And so you can get a copy of that indictment on the state judicial's website. It is linked on a page